Hi, Paragon Mills third graders. This is Mrs. Wolfe, and some of you may remember me from coming into your classroom during math time. And so I wanted to join you this week to talk a little bit about math. So let me pull up my number talk today. And with Miss Wood earlier this week, you did a number talk using rectangles or squares. And today I want to know, how many triangles do you see? So take a second and pause the video, and I want you to count how many triangles you see in this image. And when you're done counting, just push start and I'll join you back. All right, so how many triangles can we see? When I look, I definitely see the first big triangle. It's this big one right here. Did all of you get that one? I wonder, but then I look inside and I think there might be some more. I see all of the little triangles that look like this. So count them with me. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I'm thinking about triangles. Do triangles always have to be shaped like this with a point at the top? No, sometimes they can be upside down. We can have obtuse triangles or acute triangles, isosceles. There are all different types of triangles. So when I look, I see some upside down triangles. So let's keep counting. 8, 9, and 10. Are there any more triangles that you see? How many of you saw more triangles? Well, when I look, I see that there were some small triangles, but there might also be some big triangles too. I see a big one at the top, 11, 12, and 13. How many of you got 13 triangles? You did a great job with our little number talk puzzle today, boys and girls. Next, what I want you to do is think back to Miss Wood's video and what you learned with her. You guys were learning about how big is a foot. And in that book, we learned that it's important that we use what's called a standard form of measurement. At the bottom of our screen, I put a ruler. And this ruler measures in inches, starting over here with 0 and going all the way up to 6. And in between the 0 and a 1 is what's called an inch. And that's the whole inch, not just part of it, the entire inch. And this ruler has 6 inches. So what if we need to measure something that is less than an inch? What would we do? So on the next slide, we're going to measure some things that are less than an inch. So what I did here was I took just the 0 to 1 inch part of the ruler and I blew it up really big. And I know you guys have been learning about nature this week and flowers, so I chose some bugs because bugs are outside. So I want you to look at this worm that's up here and at the ruler. And I wonder how we can measure how big the worm is. If I look, he looks to be right about where that black line is. It is right in the middle between 0 and 1. Does anyone know what that's called? That's called 1/2. Here is 1/2, and here is the other half. If I look at the inch, there are 2 pieces. 1 piece, 2 piece, which is why there's a 2 at the bottom. That shows me there are 2 pieces in all, but the worm only takes up one of those 2, or 1/2. Let's measure something else. If I look at this bumblebee, the bumblebee doesn't even make it to 1/2. What could we call that? I look and he makes it right to about that line, and I wonder, what is that? I look, boys and girls, and see that that is called 1/4, because if I count how many pieces there are all together, there are 4. and the bumblebee takes up 1 out of 4. So we've got 1/4, then 2/4, 3/4, and then the whole, or 4/4. So our bumblebee is 1/4 of an inch. Now it's your turn. I want you to measure. Look at this grub. It's a big grub, and I want to know, how big is the grub? Go ahead and pause your video and measure. How big is the grub? All right, since we were already counting in fourths, let's go ahead and keep going. He's bigger than 1/4, bigger than 2/4, right about 3/4 of an inch. What about our caterpillar? What is the measurement of the caterpillar? Well, if we continue counting in fourths, he's bigger than 1/4. It looks like he's right at 2/4. But I noticed something. On the line where it says 2/4, it also has another measurement. It also says 1/2. I see on my screen I have 1/4 here and 1/4 here. But watch when I put a half right over top. That half takes up the same amount of space. 1/2 and 2/4 are the same. Another word for that is equivalent. Equivalent has the word equal in it, and that tells me that they are equal. This caterpillar is 1/2 or 2/4. Here's a lightning bug. This is your turn. Go ahead and pause the video and decide, how big is the lightning bug? How far did you measure the lightning bug? I measured that the lightning bug was 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to give you a challenge. This is a grasshopper, and I took the ruler and I just scooted it over to the side, and I'm looking at my grasshopper, and I want to know, how big is our grasshopper? How many halves does he measure? How many fourths does he measure? So that's going to be your job before we meet again, or before you talk to your teachers during their office hours. Don't forget, you can always email them to ask them some questions. It would be great if you guys would talk about this. And if you're comfortable, leave your answers in the comments below and tell me, how big is our grasshopper in inches? How many halves does he measure? And how many fourths does he measure? Thank you so much, third graders. We miss you, and we'll see you soon.